In other news, this month marks 2 years since Kishida Fumio became Japan's prime minister. To see how he's been received outside the country and look at the challenges ahead of him, we spoke with the head of Japan Society. It's a not-for-profit organization that connects Japanese culture and business with New York and beyond. Here's that report.
Since coming into power, Kishida has been facing growing concerns about the security environment around Japan, rising prices, and the invasion of Ukraine. He's now responding to another conflict.
I think that Japan is in a really unique situation. Of the G7 countries, it was condemning Hamas and it was supportive of Israel, but it didn't go as far as America and certain European countries. If this is becoming a war between terrorism and a democratic state, Japan has to make a choice.
Choices that affect international relations are something Kishida understands firsthand. He served as foreign minister for nearly 5 years in Abe Shinzo's administration. As prime minister, Kishida led a historic choice, deciding to increase Japan's defense spending to 2% of the GDP, something welcomed by the U.S.
I think Kishida sometimes is much better at what we say leading from behind. So I evaluate the Kishida administration very highly. I think that the policy changes on the security front is something that Abe was never able to do, 2% threshold. But when it comes to balancing things like Israel, when it comes to balancing things like Russia, Americans expect an even stronger, more personality-driven politician, which is not what Kishida represents.
But Kishida appears to be connecting well with a key American, President Joe Biden.
I think that things like the Ron-Yasu relationship between Reagan and Nakasone, or between George Bush and Koizumi, or between Abe Shinzo and President Trump, it's not the same level. And I think it's partly because of Kishida's personality. He doesn't allow anyone to be too close, but he uses the word Joe when he talks to President Biden. And President Biden feels very comfortable with Prime Minister Kishida. So I think when it comes to policy, we've never seen it closer. But when it comes to personal chemistry, I think that's a different question.
What do you think about the possibility of an emergency in Taiwan, a contingency in Taiwan?
There's already a war in Ukraine, there's a war in Israel. The last thing the world needs is a war over Taiwan. And the trouble is, I don't think the Chinese are as clumsy as the Russians, right? The Russians were very clearly invading Ukraine, and I think that China will be more careful. And in Taiwan, I think if China launched an armed attack on Taiwan in the same way that Russia launched an attack on Ukraine, it would mean war. Because there's no way that America can sit back and allow its ally to be attacked directly. So I think the main thing that Japan can do is to be incredibly supportive of protecting and defensive posture, and also making sure that whatever China is doing beyond a direct attack, it is able to be capable through the Coast Guard and through the Maritime Self-Defense Forces.
With the outside world watching what Kishida does, so too do people in Japan. And next year, his ruling Liberal Democratic Party will provide perhaps his next big test, a leadership contest.